Hello, this is Paul, and we are going to be looking at a P-50 lift. Everything to do with putting the P-50 lift together. So the container that you're looking at right now is relatively large. I would say it's probably about 7 to 7.5 feet tall. And if you observe, the first thing that I want to point out is that if the shipment is damaged, do not sign. Please refuse shipment and contact Discover Your Mobility. This would be a great time to press pause, to write down the telephone number if you have a container that is damaged. This looks in perfect condition. The first step is going to be to open it. We have a hammer that we're going to be using. A pry bar would be wonderful as well. We have several parts of this container that need to be opened. Once these are opened, we will make the second video. This is video number 2 for the P-50 lift. You can see that the front of the box, we have an arrow that points up, and you're going to open from this side. Of course, if the shipment is damaged, do not accept. And then we're looking at the back of the box, and of course the other side. This is video 3, opening the P90 lift. You can see that after the metal fasteners have been removed, there is going to be a slightly diligent effort to actually open the container. Take your time, be patient, and if you are unable to do this on your own, we recommend hiring professional help to put this together. Once you get the front of your P-50 open, as we can see in this video, we take a look at the packaging. The next step is going to be removing this the rest of the way, as we will demonstrate in the next video. Once the box is open and some of the bubble wrap is removed, the first thing we're going to do is remove pieces of the lift that can be removed so the box can further be unpacked. The next step, once the initial panel is removed, is to remove the rest of the actual container. As mentioned previously, if you are unable to do so by yourself, please do hire a professional. This will require more than one able-bodied person. You can see the container itself is very sturdy to prevent damage while the device is being shipped. As you can see, there are multiple steps of opening the crate. We have taken the front of the crate off first. We have then removed some of the internal supports on the crate. We're basically deconstructing the crate. This can be done in multiple ways. Carefully is the best way. Once the container or crate is opened, right here, this is very important. This is the actual lift portion of the P-50. Very carefully, this is being removed, and very carefully, this is being put in a place where it is not going to get harmed or scratched. We see the initial part that we have removed for unpacking. We're removing the actual lift, and now we're getting into the actual mechanics of the machine here. We can see multiple parts inside of the machine. The next few videos is going to do with getting everything put together. I do want to take this opportunity to once again reiterate, this is a heavy piece of machinery. We advise you to hire a professional to put this together for you. Keeping in mind, the heaviest piece is to the top. When you are removing this from the crate, extreme caution is absolutely necessary to avoid an injury. The heaviest part is right up at the top of the device. If we take a look inside the device, we see that we have some additional materials packaged with zip ties that you will need for the construction of the device itself. I cannot urge you enough. Caution, caution, caution. Safety first. Please avoid an injury. Next step is that we are removing the components of the lift, or the internal components, that weighs approximately 50 pounds, maybe more, maybe less. The idea is that those are parts that are heavy that will need to be removed carefully from the lift before we take the next step. Please notice how the actual cord, the electrical cord here, is wrapped up so this stays undamaged and out of the way. Some of the parts have been removed. It is very important that we are going to carefully remove all of the parts so we can take a look at them for assembly later on. We're going to very carefully turn the lift to one of its sides. Cautiously and carefully, we will remove the components of the lift so the lift can actually be set up on the ground. This is not a one-person job. This is a 2 to 3 person job. You will now position the lift where you would like the lift to be positioned. And I would like to point out that on the bottom of the lift, we do have the space to anchor the lift to a surface. So you are going to position the lift to the area where you would like it to be installed. Now that we have the lift basically framed in, we're done with the most difficult part. But I do want to point out a couple things. These leveling and anchoring points will have to be on the outside of the lift. You can see on this side, if this was used on the other side, it would just simply not work. It would actually create a big problem in the inability to actually effectively put together the lift. So we can see that our leveling and anchoring points are on the outside 4 corners. We can see that this bag right here is going to be exceptionally useful for the rest of the bolts and washers and nuts for the actual lift. Even though the bolts are not specifically labeled, you will find 4 bolts in that bag that will give you the ability, or 4 lugs in that bag that will give you the ability to stabilize the lift by tightly fastening the actual legs into place, as is being started right now. The next video will show you the next step of assembly for the P-50 lift.
Crescent wrench.
So right now, to reiterate, this is a 19 millimeter wrench that we are using. An adjustable crescent wrench would be the other option. you will definitely want to tightly secure all of the lugs at this point in time. Remember, safety first. Moving forward for the next step of putting the P-50 lift together, we're just going to review all of the different parts of the actual lift that you should have. There is a picture here as well. Let's review everything we have taken out of the actual plastic wrapping at this point in time. As pointed out in a previous video, we have put the actual legs on the device. We're just more taking an inventory of what you are supposed to have. Everything pictured in this video is an item that you should have with the actual lift. Once we have taken an inventory of all of the parts, the next very important step in allowing the lift to function is going to be to actually cut the zip ties. As you can see being demonstrated right now, there are a few zip ties that will be holding everything in place from a packing perspective. However, all zip ties need to be removed from the actual device itself before the device will be functional. Primarily the zip ties that will hold the actual platform in place. Once those zip ties are removed, which you can see have been removed, we have the ability to actually lower the platform here to install the next part of the lift. The next video will show you how that works. The next step in assembling the lift is going to be, of course, to get the lift plugged in. You can see that we're using an extension cord simply because we're outside. You would turn the lift on. You would basically turn the lift so you can press down. Any of the three buttons will work. This is mainly for height, but the thing that we will look at next is underneath the actual lift itself. We have the mechanism that allows the lift to lift and drop back down into a normal resting place, and we have the actual kill switch. So this will actually engage and prevent the lift from moving at all. Very important to make certain that this is adjusted in such a way that it's not actually touching the bar itself. That is underneath the lift. There will also be another couple videos in a different section that will go over how to make the lift level if the lift happens to not be level, which has to do with this. And then you can see another screw basically right at the top there. So we'll go over that in a separate video, but for now what we want to do is we want to lower the lift all the way so we can attach the actual mechanism that would allow you to drive a power chair into the lift and allow the lift to lift you up to a new level. The next step in getting this lift completed is going to be putting the receiver port down, or the actual lift, and we are going to lower this part directly into the actual lift. So for the next video, these screws are going to be off, so we're going to need to take those out, and then we're actually going to lower the lift. We are going to thread the bolts through here, so this gets lowered all the way down here, and we're going to put the bolts back in and fasten everything in place. The next video will demonstrate what the next step to the process is.
How you gonna like do with no?
In order to balance the lift, you're going to need to slightly elevate the bottom portion, and then we are going to lower the actual lift so we can line the bolts up and get everything properly attached. Once everything is nice and tight, we're going to lift, take the support mechanism out from underneath the lift, and we have almost completed assembly of the actual lift. The next step is going to be installing the actual safety mechanism here to the lift. Extremely important, holds a person in the lift. We have 4 bolts, 3 of which are pictured, and we can see that they are getting installed from the inside. Now that the actual safety cage has been installed, we should have a lift that looks as you can see in the video. There is just a few more steps left and you will be ready to roll. The next and final few steps to getting your P-50 lift completely functional is going to be attaching the actual safety ramp. So we see on the side here, this was pictured earlier and this was depicted in a previous video. We are going to mount this to the actual lift, and then we're going to mount the rest of the ramp. However, we will work on doing this first. So the next thing that we're going to do is actually assemble the ramp. Now you can see this mechanism with the wheel is going to come with bolts, both actually in the part itself. So we're going to unscrew the parts as you can see here, and we are going to thread those directly through so we attach the ramp to the point where it looks as you can see in the video. Once the ramp is attached, or the rolling mechanism is attached to the ramp, we are going to take the 3 bolts out that you see as depicted in this video. This next and very important step is going to be actually to get the ramp itself attached to the platform. So you can see on the underside of the platform, even though one person is doing this, I cannot emphasize enough, this is not a one-person job. We're going to start in the middle and we are going to reattach those 3 screws, and that in turn will successfully fasten the ramp onto the actual platform. Extremely important step. And another thing that I would like to point out during this step is that you see the mechanism with the wheel is going to be on the tower side of the actual lift itself. We're almost done. The lift is almost complete, but we do want to make certain that the wheel side is on the tower side, otherwise it will not properly function. One thing that I would like to point out as an adjunct to the video before, we have a universal setting, or the ability for a universal setting. You can see that there are a couple other screws attached to the actual tower part of the P-50 lift, and in the previous video I made it a point to explain the importance of having this mechanism, the wheel mechanism, on the actual tower side. You can see the technician taking the actual screws out of the other side. top and bottom, because we are going to attach them to this side of the lift. So please do understand that the lift is universal in its application depending on how your porch is situated. This part is extremely important. So we can see that this is really the last step here, and we're actually threading the bar directly through the actual lift, and the bolts that we got out of the other side, or the screws that we got out of the other side, we are matching them up, and we are going to attach all 4 screws. The important thing is, you observed at how this actually part was threaded through this part here. Extremely important step. Now that the lift is put together, we're going to see how the actual ramp functions. There is a little bit of noise, but it is an industrial grade lift. You see how the bottom part allows the ramp to automatically drop down flush and level. We have an emergency stop button. We have the up, we have the down. All 3 buttons work the same. And of course, the on and the off, very important. Nothing is working until it is switched on. And then all the possibilities are open. We sincerely hope that this video manual helped in your efforts to put together your brand new P50 lift. We hope that it is everything that you hoped it to be, and then some. Please stay tuned for additional videos of actual usage for the lift, and thank you for choosing Discovery Mobility. You can see how easy it is to get the actual lift framed in. Now we are ready to completely stabilize the lift. We're going to pay attention to a couple more areas here as well, namely this anchoring point. In order to declutter your environment while you are focusing on putting the lift together, we have started to open up the packages that were inside of the lift. And right here you see that we have one of the legs, or stabilizer legs. This is what we are going to be focusing on. We have 2 stabilizer legs. You can see that they're both very efficiently wrapped to avoid damage. And I would like to point out, look how beautiful these legs are. There are no scratches. They are perfectly intact throughout the shipping process. We are going to take them, and they are going to be attached to either side of the lift, as we will demonstrate in a different video. However, we see the general idea of what we're going to be doing here. We see this part, we see this part will basically go there and there, as we can see demonstrated. It is a 2-person job. Easy does it. We're lifting the top corner of the lift, and we are very gently going to repeat this process for both sides.